We tend to think of cities as just the background of our lives, right? A bunch of streets, some tall buildings. But what if they're actually more than that? What if the very design of the place you live is actively shaping your mind, for better or for worse? Today, we're going to dig into how our cities can either be the source of incredible stress or, believe it or not, a powerful tool for healing. Man, this quote just hits so hard. It perfectly captures that bizarre feeling of being lonely in a crowd. I think we've all felt it. You're surrounded by millions of people, but you feel completely isolated. It's a huge paradox of modern city life, and it really sets up the big question we need to ask. Are our cities built to connect us, or are they accidentally pushing us apart?
For a lot of us, living in a city feels like being in a constant stress test. The daily grind isn't just about your job or what's going on in your personal life. It's about navigating an environment that is just a lot. It can be overwhelming, overstimulating, and sometimes really, really isolating.
And a big part of that is something called urban crowding. Now, this isn't just about a lack of physical space. It's about the psychological side of it. It's that cognitive overload you get from the constant noise, the visual chaos, the feeling that you can never truly get a moment to yourself. And when that happens day after day, it can put our brains into a state of chronic stress. And the scale of this, it's just staggering. Just in the United States, that's 42 million people dealing with anxiety disorders. This isn't just a collection of individual struggles, it's a full-blown public health issue. And it's deeply tied to the pressures of modern life, including that relentless frustration that can build up from just trying to exist in some of our urban environments. So, how are people dealing with all this pent-up frustration? Well, here's a pretty wild trend: the rise of rage rooms. These are literally places where you can pay money to grab a baseball bat or sledgehammer and just destroy things. It's this powerful, almost primal scream against feeling overwhelmed. And yeah, it's a growing business.
I mean, it sounds pretty satisfying, right? But does that kind of catharsis, letting off steam, does it actually help with our anger and anxiety in the long run? Common sense says it should, but the science tells a very different story.
And here's the twist. Studies, like a really famous one by Bushman and his team, found that acting out your aggression, even on a bunch of old TVs, doesn't get rid of it. In fact, it can actually reinforce the behavior. It's like you're training your brain: when I feel stressed, breaking stuff feels good. It rewards the distress with this quick hit of pleasure. So it begs a much bigger question. If our go-to coping mechanisms are actually flawed, shouldn't we be looking at what's causing all that frustration in the first place? Because here's the thing, this stress isn't random. It's not just happening. A lot of the time you can trace it back to very specific design decisions made in our cities. I'm talking about sprawling suburbs with no sidewalks, or giant highways that just slice neighborhoods in two. These things were meant to solve problems like traffic, but they ended up creating brand new ones, dividing us from each other and from our own sense of well-being. And there's no more powerful or heartbreaking symbol of this than the Pruitt-Igoe housing project in St. Louis. When the first of its 33 buildings was dynamited on live television, the architectural historian Charles Jenks made this incredible declaration. He was essentially saying this was the end of a certain kind of arrogant, top-down vision for how we should live. Just look at how fast this dream crumbled. It opened in 1954 with all this fanfare, a gleaming, modern solution to slums. But within a decade, it had become a national symbol for urban decay. The design itself, these isolated towers surrounded by stark, empty, and frankly unsafe common areas, it just failed to create a community. By 1972, the only answer they could come up with was dynamite. Pruitt-Igoe wasn't just a one-off mistake. It was the most extreme example of a wider problem, a problem some people have called lonelytopia. It's what happens when we design our cities for cars instead of for people, for cold efficiency instead of human connection. It's an urbanism that, without meaning to, actually manufactures loneliness. Okay, so that was pretty bleak, but this is where the story takes a really hopeful turn. Because if bad design can hurt us, then it has to be true that good design can help us heal. And that brings us to a powerful and honestly, a surprisingly simple solution: the green prescription. So check out this incredible study from Philadelphia. Researchers found these vacant, trash-filled lots, you know the kind, just total eyesores that bring a whole neighborhood down. And they gave them a super simple makeover. We're not talking about fancy parks here. They just cleaned them up,
planted some grass, a few trees, and put up a basic fence. That was it. And the impact? It was absolutely mind-blowing. The residents who lived near these newly greened lots reported a nearly 63% reduction in their feelings of psychological distress. Let that sink in. This wasn't a small change. This was a massive, measurable improvement in the mental health of an entire community.
Let's just dig into those numbers for a second. Feelings of depression dropped by over 41%. Feelings of worthlessness down by more than half. The benefits were biggest in the lowest income neighborhoods, which makes this a real issue of social equity. But maybe the most fascinating part of all, people didn't even have to use the spaces to feel better. Just the simple act of looking out their window and seeing green instead of blight was enough. And the whole thing cost about $1,600 a lot. That is an incredible return on investment.
Okay, so we know that even small, simple changes can have a huge positive impact. This has kicked off a whole wave of new thinking about how we can fundamentally redesign our cities, not just to be greener, but to be more connected and more supportive of our well-being.
One of the biggest ideas out there right now is the 15-minute city. Carlos Moreno really popularized this, and the concept is so simple yet so powerful. Basically, everything you need for your daily life should be a short walk or bike ride from your front door. The goal is to build cities around our time and our connections, not around our cars and our commutes. And the difference is just night and day. In a car-centric suburb, every trip is this isolated mission you have to plan. In a 15-minute city, life just happens locally. You walk to the store, you bump into your neighbors, you're part of a community. Physical activity is just built into your day. It's not something you have to schedule and drive to a gym for. It's a totally different way of living.
Now, building on that idea, there's another approach called feminist urbanism, and it asks us to go even deeper. It challenges us to stop seeing the city as just an economic engine and to start seeing it as a system of collective care. It asks, how do we design spaces that actually support the things that sustain our lives, like caring for kids and the elderly, building community, and promoting healing?
So what does that actually look like? Well, it could mean local hubs that combine childcare with healthcare services. It means designing public spaces with emotional safety and healing in mind, not just for getting from point A to point B. It could even mean building new kinds of housing that are specifically designed to fight social isolation. It's all about making care a visible, crucial part of our city's infrastructure. And this is all part of making people feel like they truly belong. A truly inclusive city has to reflect everyone who lives there. Take Superkeilen Park in Copenhagen. It's amazing. They installed objects from the home countries of the people in the neighborhood. Benches from Brazil, neon signs from Russia. It's this beautiful, powerful way of saying, you are seen here. This is your home too. Now, I know this can all sound like the work of big-time city planners and fancy architects, but the truth is, the health and the heart of a city really starts at the street level. It starts with us. The absolute legend of urban thinking, Jane Jacobs, was arguing this decades ago. She said that real safety in a city doesn't come from more patrols. It comes from eyes upon the street. It comes from a neighborhood that's alive with people walking around, looking out for each other. Think about it. An empty, dark park feels dangerous. A park full of people playing and talking feels safe. Safety is a byproduct of connection. And that's really the bottom line. We all have a role to play in this. So next time you're out, just look. Look at your own street. Walk down your own block. What do you see? Is it a space that connects people or divides them? Is it a place that causes stress, or does it offer a little bit of restoration? And the most important question of all, what's just one simple thing, a bit of green, a new bench, a small gathering, that could help your street and the people on it begin to heal? Thanks for joining me on this one.